Yeah, thank you, and welcome, everyone. So today we wanted to talk about Doppelgänger, which is a Russian disinformation campaign. It's been running for roughly 2 years now, a bit more actually. We're almost going into the 3rd year now. So it started briefly after the Russian invasion of Ukraine. And just to give you a brief introduction on the campaign, they mostly use fake news websites. So they imitate German, but also French and US outlets. There's also many other countries that are targeted, but France and Germany have always been sort of the focus of the campaign. As you can see here, there's a fake Spiegel article, a fake Le Parisien, and then Fox News. I'm not sure why they felt like they had to fake that one. They also use dedicated blogs and quote-unquote news websites. On the right, on your left, you can see recent reliable news. That's one of their bigger news outlets. They used to call themselves Reliable Russian News, and then they changed their name, maybe to be a bit less obvious. They also use sort of blogs that are made to look like independent media outlets. So you can see an English one here in the middle called Election Watch, and then a German one called Grenzezank, which, if you speak German, sounds a bit weird. Yeah, and basically we've known for a while who's behind this campaign. So there's 3 companies that have been identified. We know that they're behind it from leaks, but also they've been sanctioned in the meantime by the EU, the US, and the UK. And these 3 companies are Struktura, a social design agency, and Argon Labs. If you look at Struktura, they're also not very subtle about sort of their motivation. And what we know from these leaks is that they report directly to the Russian presidential administration. We also found in our latest investigation a trace to the Russian Ministry of Defense. So there's also some evidence that the ministry is directly involved. So for this talk, we kind of tried to take the perspective of these companies. You've just been tasked by the Kremlin with this massive influence operation. So how do you begin? You obviously need infrastructure for these websites. So where do you host them? Where do you get the domains? And you also need some kind of redirection mechanism maybe to lead people to these websites, and a distribution mechanism. So how do you spread them on social media? What Doppelgänger also uses, but we're not going into today, is sort of the less technical side of it. So who's producing the content? Who are sort of maybe the influencers they're paying to spread the stuff? And Alexei will talk about the infrastructure part of this next.
Yes. So when we switch positions now, the perspective, we are now one of the companies who got the task to set up such a disinformation campaign. We have to consider a few things. The first of all is it's a hostile campaign against the West, so we have to expect that it's being fought. And so we have to build a very solid infrastructure which is hard to fight. And who knows how to do it? It's mostly criminals who are doing it for years. For example, I have here 3 screenshots from X. These are ads which are posted there. I don't know if you're on X, maybe you have seen it. I'm sure it's coming to Blue Sky as well soon. But this looks as well as exactly as Doppelgänger. We have these fake news articles, and we have accounts which are posting them. But it's it's not Doppelgänger, it's a crypto scheme. If you click on the links, you land on these fake articles, which looks very similar to Tagesschau or Bild or other outlets. And then there are links to like these crypto investment schemes where you just lose money. If you look also on the links, you will see it later, it's very similar to what we see from Doppelgänger. So this is a very good blueprint for our campaign. And Qurium is an NGO from Sweden, with them we have worked on this investigation very closely, and they have looked on exactly these schemes for a long time. And they did this graphic, so if you look at it, you have in the middle, you see the three fields. You have paid ads on Facebook or X or wherever, and it's a chain. When you click on that ad, you're being redirected through different stages. There is in the middle, there is this traffic arbitrage, which filters traffic, so it makes sure that only those who you're targeting are landing on the page you want them to land. All the others, like Facebook moderation, Teams, bots, they land on a white page. And at the end, you land on the fake, in this case, Le Monde page, and then there are links where you just go, are being directed to this crypto scheme investment portal. So, and this is exactly what Doppelgänger did. So they even have 4 redirection stages. This is animated. We have to wait for the beginning just to see how it works, because the content is spread on social media. Here you see it. Look at the links. It looks very suspicious. And when you click at it, you look in the address bar. It very quickly changes, and at the end you land on this fake Washington Post page. So here's another illustration. Here we just have the domain tree. It's not chronological, so you have the different stages on different positions. But at the end, on the second position, you'll see Spiegel Limited. This is one of the end fake news outlets of Doppelgänger. And before that, this chain with traffic filtering, etc. And yeah, we did an infographic for one of our pieces we published in this summer. And here are the 4 stages again. So in the beginning, in the top left, you have disposable domains. These are these domains which you see on social media, which are very short-living. It's just throwaway domain. And they're constantly changing. And then you're being redirected to an intermediary domain, where is one traffic filtering behind that. Then there's a second traffic filtering, and it's called the K-Taro domains, and then at the end, the final stage. Yeah.
And now I'll introduce some of the hosting infrastructure that we've identified Doppelgänger's using. So basically, we first looked at the first stage. So these are the sort of throwaway domains that Doppelgänger's using on the platforms. Those get blocked relatively quickly, so they need a constant supply of new domains. And what we found was that there were around a dozen or 2 dozen hosting companies and sort of autonomous systems that were set up by young Russian individuals. So they were often in their teens, early 20s. They would set up these companies in the UK, usually all at the same address, and then set up a hosting infrastructure. And what we found together with Qurium is that they were all connected to one bigger hosting company in Russia called AESA. We also saw Hetzner being used in the intermediary domains, so more for the redirection part of this, and a Russian hosting company called Vitsina. And then for the sort of the destination domains, so those are the blogs, the fake news websites, and so on. A lot of them were using Cloudflare, And then they were hosted by Hostinger, which is a Finnish company, I think. And then some more sort of gray / bulletproof hosting companies like Shinjiru, Zomro, and Stark Industries. And just to give you an example of one of these small hosting companies that was set up by young Russians, one of them is called TN Security. Sorry, there's a little typo in the title. You can look this up in the UK Companies Register, and it says it was set up by Anastasia Berezina, who is now almost 20 years old. It said that she was from Latvia. We later found out that she's actually Russian, and she set up this company in August 2023. TN Security is one of the sort of main providers for Doppelgänger for these sort of throwaway domains. And what was interesting was that first of all, we contacted her, and she confirmed to us that that was her and that she was Russian. But also on social media, a couple of days before the company was set up, she said that she was leaving her job as a hairdresser because she had found a better paying job. So it's very doubtful that she actually runs the company. And another interesting thing, after our first reports published, TN Security did a sort of switch, and they're now exploit acquisition company offering up to $300,000 for zero-day exploits. What we also found were a lot of bulletproof hosting companies that allow a lot of stuff as long as it doesn't target the Russian government. So these are screenshots from a kind of hacker forum, all translated from Russian, obviously. And you can see here, this is one of the hosting providers called LetHost, and they have a list of what's allowed. So phishing in the EU and US is allowed, crypto scams, dealers, botnets. What's not allowed is illegal actions aimed at government bodies of the Russian Federation. They also post screenshots of their abuse email inbox. So if someone sends you a message about your service being abused, they post screenshots of that to prove that they're not responding to it. If you look very closely, the resolution might not be good enough, but you can see an Austrian cyber authority here. They confirmed to us that they had sent the abuse mail, but they didn't want to say whether anything had happened. And what we also found in the case of Stark Industries, which is a hosting company that was used by RRN, for example, so this big fake news portal, is that they were also used by other, Russia-aligned or pro-Russian groups. For example, by a hacktivist group called No Name 05716. They're a group that sort of targets DDoS attacks against what they perceive to be enemies of Russia. So that can be Germany, Ukraine, Switzerland, Nordic countries, the US, for example. And the way they do it is as a sort of competition. So you can go to their Telegram, download the website, the software or the script, and then whichever person sort of can prove that they had the biggest impact with their part of the DDoS campaign gets a little financial reward. Stark is also being used by Fin7, which is a cybercriminal group that's been around for a long time, was gone for a bit, and then became active again. And now Alexei will talk about fake and stone identities.
Yeah, as Max has showed you, Doppelgänger does not only use such shady bulletproof hosting companies, but also Western companies like Hetzner or Hostinger, which is Lithuanian, I think. Yeah, and for that, Doppelgänger needs identities which are looking unsuspicious. And yeah, one of our first steps in our investigations when we learned about several top-level domains with a .de ending, we just asked the DENIC who's behind them. And this is what we get as a response. All 3 domains, which belong to Doppelgänger, they were registered by this guy, Leonard Rappencathorn. Looks very funny, and if you look at the city where he's from, it's also changes. So it looks very like it's copy and pasted from somewhere where you don't really know how the correct writing would be. And because this was so suspicious, we just asked what domains were registered by this guy else, and on the left you see a very long list, it's even longer than that, of domains which were registered on that name. And there are domains like, I don't know, Cacao and Backpack or CryptoCruncher and stuff like that. And we digged a little further and discovered that there were fake shops registered where you have even a bank account in Ireland, which were registered by this guy, and we also have a UK company registered by this guy. And actually, we got curious, and at the end we found out that this guy really exists. And for a few years ago, he was just he was a victim of identity theft, and since then he just is getting harassed by post sendings and bills and all stuff like that. And yeah, so now Doppelgänger is using his identity as well. It was very interesting for us to see that some month later, when the FBI did a seizure of several Doppelgänger domains which were in the legislation of the US, they published a very long document describing what they found out, and they also mentioned there the Cathorn persona, which you see here in the red circle. And interestingly, there are even more such personas like the Camp Kopak persona or the Kaspar Till persona, which obviously also looks very strange. And I think Kaspar Till is like, it was somewhere Kaspar Till, 2 names, and then it looks now very funny. But yeah, so Doppelgänger uses also such stone identities which are previously have been used by cyber criminals. And yeah, and of course, if you do payments, you also have to obfuscate where the money comes from. It's if you pay to Hetzner from a Russian account, which is somewhere recorded for suspicious activities, it's obvious. So they also either used credit cards which were issued by real financial institutions to real persons, or they just pay with cryptocurrencies which are coming from cybercriminal networks. And yeah, and now Max will tell you how we distribute all this content.
Yeah, so basically what we also found was method to bypass monitoring by social networks. Maybe some of you have heard of this term before, but we hadn't known it. It's called a cloaking service. And basically what this does is when you post ads to Facebook or X, these platforms will check, even if you have a redirection link, they will check usually or will try to check where that link leads, like what the actual destination is. And with a service like this, you can obfuscate the real destination. Basically, they have a way of checking where the request is coming from. So is this someone from Facebook's moderation team, or is this like a bot that Facebook is using for this purpose, or is it an actual user? Then we looked into this and we found that it's actually a huge business. So this is a Russian forum called Facebook Killer, and it's full of services you might use to post illegal ads on Facebook or X or other social networks. So at the top you have a payments processor. This is a Russian company that basically allows you to bypass sanctions in a way, because you can pay Russian businesses with cryptocurrency anonymously. You then have bulletproof hosting companies advertising there. You also can buy credit cards to buy Facebook or Google ads or TikTok ads. And then what you see at the bottom, these are all different cloaking services. We also found another shop that's probably used by Doppelgänger. This is, we have this info thanks to a researcher. Thank you, Marcus, he's probably watching. This is not a single shop for stolen credentials and stolen accounts, but it's a shop of shops. So rents.ws allows you to create your own shop. It's a bit like Amazon or eBay. And as you can see here, you can buy Facebook, Twitter accounts, Gmail, YouTube, TikTok, whatever you need. What we found, which was really surprising, is that Doppelgänger was using a cloaking service called Care. And when we looked into this, we actually found out that it was run by a Ukrainian man. That turned out to be a bad choice, because when we contacted him, he immediately shut down their accounts. And the way it works is, so Care is this, this cloaking service that helps you identify the moderation by the networks. But you still need a lot of domains, because the domains, once you post the Doppelgänger ad on Facebook, or you post an ad for a scam, they still get blocked maybe within a couple days. So you need a constant supply of new domains. So what these services do is actually not buy the domains, but just lease them for a limited amount of time. And the service they used for that is called dmarket, and it works closely together with Care. We know, for example, that they lease the domains because we found several of these domains, like this one, Radile Lionized Shop. That was, in March, for example, it was advertising a scam on Facebook. And then in October, it was advertising a fake article by Doppelgänger. So they basically get reused by these services until they get blocked. And we're almost at the end of our talk. Yeah, I think Alexei is going to take it from here.
Yeah. Yeah. So what we told you was a little bit the perspective from the company, how they thought of setting this up. We, of course, approached the whole thing from the other side. So we collected from what we have seen pieces, and we're investigating further and further, and discovered all these companies which were involved in some way. And we, of course, we confronted all of them, and yeah, this led to, at least for the Western, the big companies, that the most of the big companies just shut their services down for Doppelgänger. And so for Doppelgänger, it meant that they constantly had to find new services, to restructure, and for some functions it was easy for them, but others like the traffic filtering at the last stage, which was hosted at Hetzner and which used the Ketaro software from an Estonian company, and they really struggled to replace this stage at the end. And so this led to, had the effect that the whole redirection chain didn't work the whole summer and autumn. And all the links which were posted by bots in social media just led to nowhere, because they just didn't know how to fix it, or because they just didn't care, because they just have to report something to the presidential administration and can just write what they want, which is a usual practice in Russia, I think. And our investigation meant for Western societies that, I mean, we are journalists, we are not an authority, but only our press inquiries led to the crash of the whole redirection chain. And this means now the campaign cannot produce significant harm. And for us, it was interesting to see that the sanctions which are imposed by the European Union, the US, and now Great Britain, they are working. You have just to help the companies a little bit, just to tell them that they are being used for propaganda, and then they're cooperating. And so this shows us that there is a way to contain such a campaign. So this was just a quick overview. If you want to go deeper into details, these are the three main publication of this summer, starting from a piece on Stark Industries, which Max mentioned, and ending now in November. We discovered that from IP addresses of the Russian Ministry of Defense, they access to accounts of Doppelgänger in different stages, which was very interesting. After that, we got a DDoS attack after we published it. So, but this is another story. But just you can read it. It's all in English. And yeah, that was it. We'd like to thank again to Qurium, which helped us investigating this. Also, we got many data from Antibot for Navalny, and Spamhaus helped us as well. And yeah, if you have questions, please.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Alexei. Thank you so much, Max, for sharing this important research, and congratulations to the results that help us all. And now I already see people lining up, and I also see questions in the stream. So we go to microphone 4, please.
Yes, gladly. Thank you for the amazing presentation. It's really scary topic with propaganda. But maybe it comes across as a critique, but I think we guys are like flexible enough to every now and then take some critique. I wonder what the necessity of disclosing, I emphasize, people's nationality in the topic is. Like, why is it so important that the hairdresser was actually Russian, and what it means to be a Russian? Is it withholding the passport? Is it the place of birth? Because, of course, we agree that not all Russian people support Russian government, because you also emphasize that you disclose another nationality of a Ukrainian man. I wonder, why does that matter?
I think we pointed out that she was Russian and living in Russia because she gave false information when she set up a UK company. I think that was mostly the reason why we did that. And it's relevant that he was Ukrainian because that was his motivation for shutting down the accounts. Because he said, you know, he doesn't support propaganda against his country while it's being invaded.
Thank you. For the signal angel, please.
There was a service called Freedom that recently went away that provided free domain. Do you know if this is in relation to all this?
I'm not really sure. I heard of that and I've seen it. I think it's not related, but it has been used by CARE for setting up the whole demarket system somehow in the past. I'm not sure if they're using Freedom till now.
I think what they also do is they try to use old domains because they are less likely to be blocked. So what you will often see is that, you know, some local bookshop had a website 10 years ago and they registered the domain and then they stopped using it and then they will repurpose that domain. So they prefer having sort of domains with a bit of a history because that makes it less likely to be blocked.
Thank you. Microphone 1, please.
Hello, thank you for your research. I was wondering if it has come across you as identity theft being a common source of these identities, and like, is it our failure to prosecute these crimes here that also allows this opportunity for tons of, you know, identities to be exploited for these purposes? Thank you.
Yeah, I think it's common practice because I've shown you only a few identities which have been used. I think there are even more, and unfortunately we were searching for the source or the forum where this specific identity was sold. Unfortunately we haven't found it. But yeah, I think of course it's a failure to prosecute. I mean, when we contacted the family of the Cathorn guy, I mean they were very desperate because for years they're fighting for, like, they're fighting that their identity. I don't even know what you can do if the identity is being stolen, but yeah, they're struggling and fighting, and of course it's a failure.
Okay. Thank you. There's one more question, microphone 1.
Yes, I know that this was not the scope of your talk, but can you say a few sentences about, are these campaigns successful? Do they have impact on how reality is perceived in the target countries, or yeah?
So it's hard to tell with Doppelgänger or in general with you know, these disinformation campaigns, because of course what they do is they will try to exploit existing narratives. So they're not necessarily trying to set their own narratives. What we've seen with Doppelgänger is that most likely they're also not just lying to the audience, but also to the Kremlin who pays them. So there's some indication that they're faking their engagement numbers, yeah, which might mean it's, you know, not actually as successful as they make it seem. But of course, because they want to keep getting paid, and for them it's just a job, they try to sort of make it seem very successful. There's also a adjacent campaign to Doppelgänger called Matryoshka. There's some evidence that they're actually the same. And what they do is they specifically target news and fact-checking organizations, and they will send them their fake content and say, hey, can you please verify this and write an article about it? We assume that is because then they can take these articles and be like, look how successful we are. They even wrote an article about this fake video we made. Yeah, so in summary, it's hard to tell.
Yeah, well, maybe one more question around what kind of information are you interested in to get maybe from people watching this? What are you wanting to research further?
Yeah, it's I don't know, you have a specific topic?
I mean, in general, if you have any information on these topics, you know, sort of stolen credentials, stolen accounts, where they are sold. One thing we never managed to do is find out where they buy these stolen identities or where they get them from. Yeah. Also, if you're familiar with sort of hosting infrastructure, autonomous systems, RIPE, how that all works, we always love to learn more about that because it's a pretty still new field for us.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Do we have still one more? No. Oh, okay. Then everybody else who didn't want to be in the stream with their questions, please come and talk to Alexei and talk to Max about it. Where can people find you in the time after the talk? Probably here, but then also at the CORRECTIV booth? Maybe?
Maybe we just wait here a little bit and you can just come here and we talk here.
Okay.
Or if not, you have our emails there and our Blue Sky accounts. I think in my profile for this talk, you can also find my signal. Yep.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much again for this presentation. This is your applause.
Thank you.